I wish I knew these 3 things before starting my thru hike. Alright, number 1. During town stops, don't poop on public sidewalks. Wait, no, this is my New Year's resolution. Okay, so some of you may already know, I recently hiked about 750 miles of the Appalachian Trail. My goal was to start in Maine and hike 2,200 miles all the way down to Georgia, which would have been at least the most well-known part of the Appalachian Trail. But my plans were cut short because of a stress fracture. However, in the roughly 60 days that it took me to traverse those 750 miles, I did learn 3 important lessons. Number 1, as a first-time thru hiker, going too ultralight can actually ruin your experience. Now, when I started in Maine, I had a 6.5 pound base weight, something lighter than anyone I had ever met, and I thought this would actually be really good. It would give me an advantage, let me hike quicker, be less prone to injury, and for the most part that was true. But I soon realized after a few weeks on trail that I was missing some of the luxuries that I just couldn't live without. The luxuries that I really needed to be able to enjoy my experience overall. And the luxuries weren't really the things you would think about. I mean, I was hiking with a tarp and a bug bivvy and a 1/8 inch pad and cold soaking all of my food. And for the most part, all that stuff worked out great. I ended up having to switch to a tent later on in my hike, but that was simply because it was starting to cool off a little bit and I didn't really want to deal with the cold being underneath of a tarp. However, one luxury I sort of overlooked whenever I was trying to get to that super ultralight base weight was actually the technology that I was packing in my bag, specifically the electronics. You see, when I would get to town, the first thing I would always do is charge up my electronics. And in doing so, I would look forward to watching the latest YouTube video from my favorite YouTuber, or seeing the latest episode from my favorite TV show. And this was very challenging, with only carrying a small charging brick at a slow wattage, and it ended up being sort of irritating. I just wanted to get to town and enjoy some of the luxuries of having internet again, but I wasn't able to do that. Now, this could be different for everybody. It just so happens that my luxuries are electronics, but your luxuries might be a warm pot to cook in, that little notepad to write in, you know, maybe some extra food, a bigger shelter, whatever it may be. Find your one luxury that you know will make your experience on trail better overall and stick to it. Now, I'm not saying go out and pick out 5 different luxury items and carry them on every single hike you do. I'm just saying find one thing that you know can make you happier. Because as a first-time thru hiker, that's what it's all about, actually enjoying your hike overall. Number 2, town stops can either be really good or really bad, depending on how you do them. Now, when I say this, I think we need to break down the different types of town stops you can do. You see, there's a hero, a Nero, and a zero. And as they were explained to me, a hero is basically when you come into town, you get your resupply, you do it very quickly, you recharge everything, and you're back out of town really quickly. A Nero is where you're coming into town, still resupplying, still charging everything up, and you're still actually heading back out of town the same day. You're just doing it with hiking 10 or less miles on that day. And you don't necessarily have to hike back out of town that day, just so long as you're actually hiking about 10 miles or less, you're actually still doing some hiking that day. And then a zero is where you take the full rest day. I mean, you get into town, do all your resupplies, you go to sleep that night, you wake up the next day, you don't hike at all, and then you go to sleep again, and then you hike out the next day. Essentially, 2 nights of rest, whether you're in a hostel or a hotel or camping out somewhere, as long as you're not hiking. So now that we have that out of the way, we need to understand what the purposes of these are, and how if you don't do them right, it can actually really mess up your resupply. You see, whenever you go into town, you already know that you're going to be doing a resupply and recharging your electronics, maybe even getting a snack or a full meal. But it's important to differentiate whether you're doing a hero, Nero, or zero, and how you should go about doing these things. You see, with a hero, it's important to remember that you still have to hike out that same day. So you don't want to eat too much food and end up feeling groggy whenever you get back on trail. For me, this was often very difficult because I would get into town and crave as much food as I could possibly eat, but that ended up being a problem. As any thru hiker will tell you, you can eat large amounts of food and not even feel it. But when you get back on trail, you're really gonna start to feel it. And trying to hike uphill with an overloaded stomach just is not a good feeling. Now, I'm not saying don't eat anything at all. Make sure you still get enough calories when you come into town. Make sure you still enjoy the town stop. Just don't overdo it if you're planning on hiking out the same day. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, if you are planning on doing a zero, make sure you actually take the full advantage of it. Still make sure that you do your resupply and get everything charged back up as soon as you can, but whenever you do get your bed set up and you get settled into your hostel, take the time to get a full night's rest or 2 full nights rest and really enjoy it. Make sure you can actually recover. Don't go out partying and drinking and all this other stuff. Just prioritize the sleep first. Remember, you're taking 2 full nights of rest, so you're gonna be paying for it, whether you're staying at a hostel or a hotel, so make sure you just really get everything out of it that you can. Also, be careful, because if you're planning on taking more than just 1 0, for instance, a 0 or even a 000, it can be very easy to start slipping into that rabbit hole of, yeah, I'll just do 1 more day of a 0, just 1 more day, 1 more night, and not only does this cost you more money, but it costs you time on trail. You see, your tramily could be hiking further and further away, and you're kind of getting used to the luxuries of being in town, which enjoying town luxuries is great, but if you start to enjoy them too much, it can make getting back on trail a little too difficult. Also, whenever you're on trail, make sure you take the time to actually write down what you want to buy or pick up whenever you get into town, because oftentimes whenever you do actually end up getting into town, you're not going to remember what you were really craving on trail. Oftentimes for me, this would be a Skittle or some Nerds gummies or just a nice snack or candy or something that I was really craving, but when I would get to town, I would forget to buy it and I would hate myself for it. So write it down so that you remember to actually buy it whenever you go do your resupply. Okay, so before I get to the third, and in my opinion, the most important tip, I wanna give a little bonus tip. And that is, if you're hiking and you meet a trail angel, whether in town or on trail, or if someone's just giving you trail magic, whatever it may be, make sure you get a picture with them. Unless they don't want a picture with them, which is completely understandable, but just see if you can get a photo with them. Because I can promise you, you're going to want to look back and reflect on and just kind of remember later on. I know for myself, whenever I ended up getting my fracture in my foot, there was a lady who helped me out. Her name was Pockets. She drove me around to different doctors who could scan my foot and kind of figure out what was going on. And if it weren't for her, I really wouldn't have had anyone to help me out. And overall, she just helped me out so much. And I really regret not just asking for a photo with her, because she did help me out so much. But that's just a little piece of advice that going forward, I'm gonna try to remember. Number 3. Hiking slow can actually mean hiking faster in the long run. Okay, so what does this actually mean? When I say hike slow to hike faster, I basically mean walk at a pace that is unconventionally slow. You feel like you're just barely moving along. And it's gonna feel like you're hiking way too slow to begin with. But what you're actually doing is saving a lot of gas in the tank to use later on in the day. And you're not gonna tire out nearly as quickly as if you were to hike as hard as you could just straight out of the get-go. You'll notice that at the end of the day, you feel a lot better, you're a lot less sore, and the next day you'll be able to get up and hike again. The next week, you won't feel so sore, and as the weeks progress, as the months progress, you'll actually feel so much better than if you were just constantly pushing yourself to the limit every single day. Now, what's actually happening is you're building up what's called an aerobic base, which a lot of long distance runners are very familiar with. But basically, an aerobic base is where you're staying somewhat around zone 2, which is basically a heartbeat range per minute that you're able to efficiently travel at. The way I'm able to judge whether I'm in zone 2 or less is a simple test. I'll try to talk either with myself or with somebody else while I'm hiking, even while I'm going uphill. If I'm not able to hold a steady conversational pace with that other person or with myself, then I'm going too fast. Another trick you could do to see if you're going at somewhat the right pace is only breathe in and out of your nose. If you feel like you're not getting enough oxygen, you need to slow down. Now, this test is also subjective because you might have messed up sinuses, clogged sinuses, or maybe you just don't breathe very well in and out of your nose. But it's a simple test to kind of get you in the right direction, get you somewhere near the right pace. This is a tip I wish I actually knew sooner, because I was hiking way too fast, way too hard for several weeks, just trying to increase my pace and do it way too quickly. And this is actually what led to me stress fracturing my foot. Basically, I was trying to hike as hard as I could uphill and as fast as I could downhill, and I wasn't controlling my steps nearly well enough. And it led to me compounding a fracture in my foot, and it just got worse and worse every single day. And I feel like if I actually knew this tip whenever I was hiking, the stress fracture wouldn't have developed in the first place, and I would have finished the rest of the trail instead of having to wait and now plan on getting back on trail this coming March. Okay, so something I want to point out is that a through hike is special to everyone in its own way for its own reasons. So don't let your enjoyment for through hiking change just because you heard something that myself or some other YouTuber said. I'm just pointing out the things that I think I should have listened to and I wish I would have known before starting my through hike, and I think maybe some other people could benefit from as well. And I know a lot of people are going to be doing their first ever through hike this year. Some people are going to be doing their second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever through hike this year. So I just want to wish everybody the best of luck. I know I'm going to be getting back on trail probably this coming March, so have fun. And if you stuck around to the end of the video, congratulations, you're a little bit dumber now. Happy hiking.